At number 6 on the Iconic 100 list is the 2000 Playoff Contenders Tom Brady, which also includes his famous championship ticket autograph, serial numbered out of 100. And here to talk to us about this card today is Mike from MC Sports Cards. Mike, I know that this is a card that's near and dear to you. As you think about where it's coming in at number 6, how do you feel about that ranking?
Yeah, I think it should be number 1. No, I'm just biased to it. I think it's a great spot for it. I think there are definitely 5 better cards out there that are more iconic, but this card is absolutely a top 10 card, no matter where you put it. It's just kind of like, it's just the card. It's hard to say much more to it, but when you think of like football and iconic cards and everything, that it's one of the first cards that come to mind, especially with the vintage football market being nowhere near the baseball market. So it's not like when you look at baseball, you have all these key vintage cards that come to mind.
That's right.
Yeah. So also on top of that, I mean, the boxes of 2000 contenders, you only got 2 autographs per box, and there's 100 autograph subjects. So basically, assuming everything is equal, that's 1 in 50 boxes. You're hitting one of these. Extremely condition sensitive. The high grades are bringing crazy premiums, and it's just a card that, in my experience of owning them, every collector wants to have one in their collection.
The thing that I love about this card is that it's not only is it a recognizable football card, it's actually the first football card on the list. I kind of wondered whether this, or like a card like the Jerry Rice or the Joe Montana, where people would see this, but as he's clearly become the GOAT in football, and that's sort of understood by everybody. Nobody's really arguing that at this point. It's not shocking to me that he would also come in as the highest football card. It's ahead of the Gretzky, Mike. It's ahead of the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson 1980 card. It's ahead of the Griffey rookie card. This is a really high placement on the list, and it still is. It's still for football. It feels a little bit weird that it only came in at 6, but the other thing that I love about it is, you talk about it being condition sensitive. When these boxes were being broken open, this was not the main chase card. And so this is one of those where some people probably opened it, even with a championship ticket, and they looked at it and they went, oh shoot, that wasn't, whoever I can't remember. Was it Donovan McNabb? Was he the same year?
No, it was like Chad Pennington.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, Mark Bulger, I don't know how desired he was, but I think Pennington was the guy. Honestly, I was too young to understand them back then. But
I was working in a card shop at the time, and actually I think I'm conflating 99 and 2000, because 99 was, I think, that first year of Contenders that everybody went bonkers for.
Yeah, 98 with Manning.
Oh yeah, 98 with Manning, and then 99 still had that awesome class with, was it Culpepper and McNabb and those guys. Maybe I might be off on that, but the point that I wanted to make here just was that, like, this card wasn't like ever going to be the most iconic football card of all time, and then it became that. Mike, explain to me how this card became known as the most iconic football card of all time.
Yeah. So I think something that has a lot to do with it is just the brand Contenders is still so relevant today and has been so relevant since 2000. You look at a lot of the other brands of Brady's rookie cards, and really none of them exist today for football, at least. So you look at like Bowman Chrome, which is alive and well, but they're just baseball. And some of his key cards, like the SP Authentic rookie, they don't make those anymore for rookies or anything like that. So I think just the fact that card has withstood the test of time and it's such a recognizable brand, I think that plays a lot. And obviously Brady being Brady is what is, but also something really interesting that a lot of people don't know is that the Contenders rookie auto is Brady's only autograph in a Patriots uniform. Everything else, he's in a Michigan uniform. He only has, I believe, 5 sets that he's in, and the Contenders is his only one. So like nowadays, you got all these new guys. They have 100 different rookie autograph cards. They're all in their professional uniform and everything. But Brady, that's it, just the contenders. So I think that also helps it a lot.
Yeah, I think you're right. I got to hold for the first time a championship ticket card about 2 weeks ago. And as I saw that, as I see the way that card really like reflects.
Yeah.
And you see it's numbered out of 100. You hear what you just said. There's 5 Brady autographed rookie cards. And this is one where it's a full image of Brady. He's in a practice uniform, which some people don't love, but it's just like, it's a special card. It's rare, out of 100. You get that Patriots uniform, which again, although it's a practice uniform, I think it's universally agreed. You'd rather have that than like a college uniform. I think at this point it's very much solidified that this is the card. It's the most iconic. And then you add to it the fact that you have both I don't want to call it lower end, because it's certainly not a lower end, but the base version. And then you have the ultra high end out of 100, allows you to sort of differentiate with what kind of collector you are. I think all of that really like makes it not only iconic but super desirable. And I know you have a few of these. Can you tell us, if you're looking into buying one of these cards, what are some things to look out for, and what are some things that sort of stand out to you as far as a really good copy?
Yeah, so I would always recommend buying them already graded. The grading companies nowadays are a lot stricter on grading them, and back in the day, the factories would cut a lot of these too small, so a lot of them won't even get graded because of the min size requirement. That's why you see a lot of these cards in just an authentic card. So I think landing one that's already graded with a number grade versus just authentic is a really, really good play. There's just not going to be a lot more out there in a grade. I think PSA combined of all number grades 1 through 10, there's maybe a little more than 100 that have been given a grade.
Wow.
Beckett, yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. Beckett, I believe there's like 400 that have been given a grade. But it's also like a crazy fact, because I was buying PSA graded ones pretty heavily, and I noticed that there are more BGS 9s in the pop report, about 250, than all PSA ones graded.
Wow.
So it's like an interesting fact there. But I think just what I would recommend is buy it already graded. You don't have to pay the expensive prices to get them graded, and you don't have to worry about any authenticity issues or condition issues that you might not know about. And also, just hold on to it. Keep one. Don't just get it to flip it. You should always have 1 or 2 or 3.
One of the things that we've learned, 1 or 2 or 3, or maybe as many as Mike has. So one of the things that we've learned through sad experience, Mike, those of us who have held on to the key cards during the run up, those are the people who have really won in the hobby over the course of the last few years. You're definitely one of those people. You've got a number of these Brady cards. You've got how did you identify this as like one of those cards that you just wanted to have a bunch of copies that you could have and just watch?
Adam, I lost you for a second. I think let's restart that question.
You kind of cut out a little bit for me too.
Sorry, guys. Okay. Mike, you're one of those guys who where did I cut out? I'll just go back to the beginning of this sort of section. One of the things that we've seen over the last few years, Mike, is that the guys that have been willing to be patient and hang on to some of these cards through the whole run up, that haven't wanted to immediately flip them or move them, those are the people who've really won. They're the people who have ended up with the most value in their collection, and they have incredible sort of vaults. You're one of those people.
If I buy more and want to hold them, or want to keep one I just bought and sell one I've been holding, but I always try to have 2, and I've kind of used that rule with like 52 Manals and other key cards. And it's just like you were saying, I mean, everything, the iconic stuff always kind of goes up, and it is really hard to predict what you should hold and what you should sell. But I've taken the approach, if I kind of keep a little bit and sell a little bit, then I have to be right at some point on something.
I think you're too modest. But
Yeah, this was definitely a card though that years ago I identified as like, wow, this is like cheap. You look at this was probably 2012, 2013. You look at like what Andrew Luck was selling for, Russell Wilson, and you're like, okay, Brady is selling for barely more than these guys. Look at all he's done.
Yeah.
Like what downside is there? So, it's hard to see the current numbers that they're at because I just remember so vividly what they used to be when like a champ ticket was $2,000. Now it's up to $1 million plus. But I do think there's a lot more potential long term as well. So
awesome. Well, it seems like you think that because you've still got a whole bunch of them in your collection. I think identifying blue chips is interesting. You've hit on a couple of things in this interview that I think are really crucial. You identified that it's the lone Patriots jersey autograph. You identified its rarity. You recognize several elements of the card that I think are important. And I think that as other people look at that, the question that people should be asking is always, how do I determine something that's going to become iconic before it gets there? And it's a whole equation, right? The player's got to be right. The set's got to be right. Everything's got to fit together. And sometimes there isn't an answer. Sometimes the answer is to wait. And so your perspective on this has been great. Last question that we talked about a little bit in our planning for this is how many copies do you feel like, or how many examples are there that were produced, would you guess, of the regular version? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So going back to the population report data, roughly 200 PSA, I would guess around 400 BGS. And then there's a lot in like authentic holders. And also you kind of have to account that I'm sure a lot have been cracked and resubbed, but I would safely guess there's probably 1,000 copies, give or take, maybe 800 to 1,200. There are counterfeits that do exist, so definitely need to be careful for those. But I think of real pack issued ones, there are probably 8 to 1,200. Back in 2000, the print runs weren't crazy high, and the demand for cards in general wasn't anywhere near what it is today. So, I think 8 to 1,200 is a very safe guess.
Fantastic answer. Last thing, you mentioned counterfeits. Can you talk to us a little bit about how good the counterfeits are and what people should look for there?
Yeah, so I've actually never seen one in person. I've only seen them online or read the articles. Just kind of like the Fleer Jordan. There's just little tidbits of it that you can look at and see and identify, just kind of like how if the Jordans, the eyes in the bowl doesn't look, it doesn't look as clear. Just like little things like that once it's super obvious. But yeah, luckily I haven't had any bad experiences with fakes or seen any or really heard about a whole lot, but I do know there are some out there.
Good. But you led with by graded, and I think that's a good reason.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely the safe play, and you don't have to worry about condition. A lot of these are really, really condition sensitive, and even if you get a grade, you might not get the grade you're expecting.
You also mentioned the min size thing. I think that's such a good note because whether it's trimmed or not, and we've seen a ton of trimming in our hobby, unfortunately, over the course of the last 5 years, whether it's trimmed or not, the graders can only look at the size of the card, and if it doesn't measure up, even if it came out of the pack that way, it's going to get that min size holder. So
and min size does not mean trimmed. So a lot of people mix it up and think that if their card gets a min size, that they have an altered card, but it really is not the case. And like PSA doesn't even charge you if your card is deemed min size because it's a factory issue, so you shouldn't have to pay. But if they deem your card as trimmed, then you have to pay. So something interesting there too.
I didn't know that. Super interesting. Mike, you've been a wealth of knowledge. Want to thank you for your help on this Iconic 100 project, for this and the other video that you did. Next time, we will hit the top 5, and really looking forward to that. I'll be joined by another guest tomorrow. And until tomorrow, happy collecting.